Once upon a time, in the land of Egypt, the Israelites were living as slaves under the cruel rule of the Pharaoh. God had heard their cries for help and decided to send a savior to free them from their bondage. This savior was Moses. Moses had been living as a shepherd in the desert when he encountered a burning bush that spoke to him. God commanded him to go to Pharaoh and demand the release of the Israelites. But Pharaoh was stubborn and refused to let them go. God then commanded Moses to perform a series of plagues that would demonstrate his power and persuade Pharaoh to release the Israelites. Moses was given a staff as a symbol of his authority and power, and he used it to perform the plagues. The first plague was turning the Nile River into blood. Moses stretched out his staff over the water, and it turned red like blood. The fish died, and the river stank. But Pharaoh remained unyielding, and he did not let the Israelites go. The second plague was a swarm of frogs. They came out of the river and infested the land. They were everywhere, in the houses, in the fields, and in the beds. But again, Pharaoh refused to let the Israelites go. The third plague was gnats. Moses struck the dust with his staff, and it turned into gnats that covered the people and animals. Even Pharaoh's magicians could not replicate this miracle. But Pharaoh's heart remained hard, and he would not release the Israelites. The fourth plague was flies. They were everywhere, in the houses, on the people, and on the animals. But Pharaoh still would not let the Israelites go. The fifth plague was the death of the livestock. All the animals of the Egyptians died, but the Israelites' animals were spared. But Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, and he would not let the Israelites go. The sixth plague was boils. The Egyptians were covered with painful boils, but Pharaoh still would not let the Israelites go. The seventh plague was hail. It rained hail and fire from the sky, destroying the crops and the trees. But Pharaoh still would not let the Israelites go. The eighth plague was locusts. They devoured everything in their path, leaving nothing behind. But Pharaoh still would not let the Israelites go. The ninth plague was darkness. It was so dark that the Egyptians could not see each other, and they could not move. But Pharaoh still would not let the Israelites go. Finally, the 10th and most terrible plague was the death of the firstborn. God commanded the Israelites to take a lamb and smear its blood on their doorposts. The angel of death passed over the Israelites' homes, but all the firstborn of the Egyptians died. This was the last straw, and Pharaoh finally let the Israelites go. The Israelites left Egypt and began their journey to the Promised Land. But Pharaoh changed his mind and pursued them with his army. The Israelites were trapped between the army and the Red Sea. But Moses stretched out his staff, and the sea parted, allowing the Israelites to pass through safely. When the Egyptians tried to follow, the sea closed in on them, drowning them all. And so, the Israelites were free at last. They continued their journey to the Promised Land, guided by Moses and his staff. But the story does not end here. There are many more adventures and miracles to come for the Israelites on their journey to the Promised Land. Who knows what wonders they will see and what challenges they will face. As the Israelites journeyed towards the Promised Land, they encountered many challenges and obstacles. They faced hunger, thirst, and exhaustion, but Moses and his staff always provided them with the guidance and help they needed. One day, the Israelites arrived at a place called Rephidim, where they were attacked by the Amalekites. Moses commanded Joshua to lead the Israelites into battle, while he himself stood on a hill with his staff held high. As long as his staff was raised, the Israelites prevailed, but when he lowered it, the Amalekites gained the upper hand. With the help of Aaron and Hur, Moses was able to keep his staff raised until the Israelites won the battle. After this victory, the Israelites continued on their journey. They came to Mount Sinai, where God gave Moses the 10 Commandments on tablets of stone. But when Moses came down from the mountain, he found that the Israelites had made a golden calf and were worshipping it. In his anger, Moses smashed the tablets and had the calf destroyed. God commanded Moses to make new tablets, and he did so with the help of his staff. As the Israelites continued their journey, they faced many more challenges. They encountered hostile tribes and fierce enemies, but Moses and his staff always found a way to overcome them. They crossed the Jordan River on dry land, and they conquered the land of Canaan with the help of God. But the story of Moses and his staff does not end with the conquest of Canaan. There are many more adventures to come, as the Israelites establish themselves as a nation and face the challenges of governing themselves. One of the first challenges they faced was the rebellion of Korah, a Levite who challenged the authority of Moses and Aaron. With the help of his staff, Moses proved that God had chosen him and Aaron as the leaders of the Israelites. The ground opened up and swallowed Korah and his followers, while fire consumed the other rebels. Another challenge came from the Moabites, who hired a prophet named Balaam to curse the Israelites. But Balaam was unable to curse them, and instead he blessed them, proclaiming that they would be a great nation and that a star would rise from among them. As the Israelites settled into their new land, they faced the challenge of keeping their faith in God. Many of them turned to idol worship and forgot the commandments that Moses had brought down from Mount Sinai. But Moses, with the help of his staff, was always there to remind them of their duty to God. One of the most famous stories involving Moses and his staff is the story of the bronze serpent. When the Israelites were being attacked by venomous snakes, Moses was commanded by God to make a bronze serpent and put it on a pole. Anyone who looked at the serpent would be healed of their snakebite. This story has become a symbol of faith and healing in many cultures. But the story of Moses and his staff is not just a story of miracles and wonders. It is also a story of human frailty and weakness. Moses himself was not perfect, and he made many mistakes along the way. He lost his temper with the Israelites, and he disobeyed God's commandments. But through it all, he remained faithful to God and to his people. In the end, Moses was not allowed to enter the promised land himself. He died on a mountain overlooking the land that he had led the Israelites to, and his staff was buried with him. But his legacy lived on, and the Israelites continued to look to him as their greatest leader and hero. As the story of Moses and his staff comes to a close, we see that it is not just a story of one man's journey, but a story of the journey of a nation. It is a story of a people who were called out of slavery, led through the wilderness, and brought to the promised land. It is a story of a people who struggled with their faith, but ultimately remained true to their God. Moses, with the help of his staff, was a crucial figure in this story. He was a man who was called by God to lead his people, and he did so with courage and determination. He performed miracles and wonders that showed the power of God, and he gave his people the guidance they needed to overcome their challenges. But Moses was also a flawed human being. He made mistakes and had moments of weakness, just like any other person. Yet he remained faithful to his God and to his people, and he always found a way to overcome his shortcomings. In the end, Moses was not allowed to enter the promised land. But his legacy lived on, and the Israelites continued to look to him as their greatest leader and hero. They remembered the miracles he performed with his staff, and they remembered the guidance he gave them through their struggles. The story of Moses and his staff is a story that has resonated with people throughout history. It is a story of faith, courage, and perseverance that inspires people to this day. It is a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, with faith and determination, anything is possible. As we reflect on this story, we can take inspiration from Moses and his staff. We can strive to be like Moses, to have faith in our God and in ourselves, and to have the courage to face our challenges head-on. We can use our own staffs, the tools and resources that we have at our disposal, to overcome our obstacles and to achieve our goals. In conclusion, the story of Moses and his staff is a timeless tale of faith and perseverance that continues to inspire people today. It is a story that reminds us that even in the face of great adversity, with faith and determination, we can overcome our challenges and achieve great things. We can all learn from the example of Moses and his staff, and use our own resources to make the world a better place.